This is Marketing Uncomplicated. All right, everybody, and welcome back. I have Daniel Borba. That's how I pronounce it, right?
That's right.
Okay. So hi everybody, welcome back. I have Daniel Borba, who is the founder and the CEO of a Spark Portal, a company revolutionizing video marketing for SaaS and B2B businesses. By pioneering the innovative video as a service, so VaaS model, Daniel provides the SaaS marketers with a cost-effective, scalable solution to produce high-quality, strategically aligned video content. This is super important as video continues to rev up and continuously is king as it relates to content for your marketing. An immigrant entrepreneur with over a decade of experience in the video industry, Daniel is committed to helping companies leverage video as a growth driver, not just as a marketing tactic. I love this. Welcome to the show, Daniel. We're super excited to dive in.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you and I kind of had been bantering back and forth prior to jumping on, I'm very excited to talk more about how a lot of companies are coming up, and there's more and more companies that are coming up to support the B2B space. But let's take a little bit of a step back and talk about where you've come from and the gap that you saw within the market to start Spark Portal.
Perfect. So, my long story is that I was an immigrant, moved from Uruguay to Miami, and during high school I took a TV production class, and that's how I kind of got into video in general. Then fast forward, like a decade later, I'm doing freelancing, animation freelance, and somehow I land a few clients in the software space that they wanted to do explainer videos.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of got into it kind of by mistake, but not by mistake, but just by luck, I guess. And so then I started offering video production services for software companies specifically. And that's how I kind of got into that whole world. I said, hey, maybe I should focus on software companies. They seem to be growing. They seem to be having unique needs that can be solved with animation and post-production. And that's how I got into it.
Yeah, I love that. And you are right. I mean, the market just continues to grow for B2B. And the support that is coming out, as we had talked about, there's a lot of borrowing from B2C, but now there's a lot more that's coming out just specifically for the B2B angle. So let's dive into a little bit about that in terms of, the B2B angle as it relates to video, because a lot of it does come from educational explainer videos and all the different types of stuff that they do, just more so on the educational side. But what are you seeing that is new, that is, coming up from a video space that maybe has been taken from the B2B angle?
So that's a really good question. And it's always interesting because I want to preface with a small fact, and that is social media has changed everything. And social media is not social media anymore. It should be interest media, really.
I love that.
And so basically, video is becoming more of a differentiator, and it's becoming more difficult to really leverage video content for marketing. Even though there are more tools, it's becoming very difficult because the bar is higher now. Before, you could get away with fewer videos, and so you could say, okay, we're going to do these 2 or 3 things throughout the year or as they come up. But now you have to include it in your regular marketing operations. And it also has to be better quality. And quality doesn't mean that it needs to look nice. Quality means it needs to be relevant. And those are all very hard things to accomplish. They sound simple, but they're very hard to accomplish because you have to narrow down your focus operationally and also strategically. And so that's always been very difficult for a lot of businesses, especially in the B2B space, because things move a little slower.
Yeah. I love that you talk about how social media is we need to rephrase this term, because if we go back, like starting at like Facebook, where you basically were following your friends and you were following your friends' lives, which I think for maybe 30% of it you still are, but I think a lot of people are following brands, and influencers that support brands that they align with. But the interesting thing is B2B becomes a little more challenging from that standpoint on, what type of value can they deliver that is going to resonate with the end user, because, there is a lot of questions when, business owners are like, well, my clients maybe not aren't necessarily on Instagram, or do we produce videos for LinkedIn, because LinkedIn was primarily known as like a professional like platform, but that's also changing. So maybe let's dive in a little bit into how the platforms are changing and evolving, and the type of contents B2B businesses should be producing that can be efficient for these platforms.
Yeah. So that's a very good question. And I think the platforms are important. But and platforms, they do come up with new things, new algorithm changes, right? And things like that. But usually they don't kind of drive the industry forward sometimes. They're just trying to appeal to a behavior that from a certain audience or a certain group of people. And so I think when we talk about how the algorithms and platforms are changing, we should understand that those changes are because behavior is kind of changing in a certain group. And so, for example, now let's talk about LinkedIn. LinkedIn was a job searching site for the majority of its life, right? And it had a content component, but it wasn't, the algorithm wasn't geared, was not set up to compete with Instagram, YouTube, and other social media sites. Now they've updated it to match what the audience is requesting. And in addition to that, we also have new groups of people joining the platform with newer requirements. For example, we have younger generations using the LinkedIn platform or website. And so now there's more opportunity to create content and for that content to be consumed. Before, the numbers were not really there.
Mm-hmm.
A big stat that gets quoted all the time is, LinkedIn users only log in a few times a month. Now maybe that's changed a little bit,
Yeah.
and but the vast majority, they do log in just a few times a week or a month. Not like unlike Facebook and LinkedIn.
Oh
Unlike
yeah.
Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, where it's like hours of consumption every day.
Yes.
So,
Right.
but what I'm saying is LinkedIn specifically, because we're talking about B2B, there is newer people involved in the platform. So the platform is changing to be able to compete and be more relevant in that group of people. And so now, as a and so we flip the coin. So now if we look at LinkedIn with a business perspective, we say, wow, like now we have to close deals with a younger generation. So, or the manager is a 30-year-old. They're on LinkedIn a few times a week. So we need to create content on LinkedIn that appeals to them to be able to influence that person because they're part of our decision-making group of people.
Yeah.
And so I think what has changed is newer people are now making business decisions, are part of the decision-making committee. And so they're on LinkedIn. Therefore, LinkedIn needs to update the algorithm to be able to compete for attention with YouTube, Instagram, X, whatever other platform.
Yeah. No, I love that, because I think a lot of people tend to, and I want to hear more from you about the type of content that people are using
Okay.
Spark Portal for. But
Yeah.
a lot of people think, oh, the videos we produce are just going to be for like LinkedIn, right? But and I can agree for the most part, maybe they are, but or maybe they're just consumed internally, or maybe they're consumed, when somebody joins on to, a company, and they're,
Mm-hmm.
informative, educational, this is what you will be doing on a day to day, or like, here's your onboarding task, or so on. Or it could be also used for onboarding for clients, right? So that's why I went back and I said, educational for the most part. But are
Mm-hmm.
you seeing more and more videos being developed that is from the mid funnel of marketing, that is really helping to make that decision? And or are they also being used as like a sales enablement tool to really flip
Yeah.
that person into the next level?
So what we're seeing is when a marketer. So I think you're onto something. Yes, we are seeing that video is being underutilized, and the reason why is because it's such a heavy lift for whoever's involved, even for a marketer to plan a video, produce it, get it approved, get our quote, all these different things. It's very difficult for them. It takes a lot of time. And so what they do is they say, okay, we're just going to approach it with a project per project mentality, meaning we're just going to do this like a few times when we can or as we need, right?
Mhm.
As
Mhm.
needed. That's not a great approach. Because eventually you're never gonna reach the right number of videos that you need to be able to be relevant or to be able to use video properly. So that's one thing. But to answer your question, which is it has more to do with what type of videos we're seeing. We're seeing all types of videos do well in different circumstances. And so, for example, for some companies that don't have like a personality or somebody they can rely on to produce video or uh, to get on a Zoom call and be recorded, for example, and produce videos for social media or even for a sales enablement, it's very difficult for them because then they have their hands tied. They're like, man, like who do we record? Who do we put in these videos? And so they have to rely on animation. And and if you don't have an animate like a very way an engaging way of creating animations, it becomes very difficult. So it's kind of difficult because every company needs to approach it with hey, what can we do that makes sense for us and our audience, based on our capabilities and our weaknesses. So I would say that the videos that we're seeing more and more, especially, or the trend that we're seeing is a lot of companies are wanting to focus on LinkedIn, and then they create videos for LinkedIn, top of the funnel, and then they want to repurpose that video for other or redistribute it in other areas. For example, sales enablement. They want to give it to their salespeople, or create a shorter version for sales, right? Enablement, and to have it in a library that they can easily share with their deals or with their prospects or clients or whatever. Um, in addition to that, we're seeing a lot of like webinar content being repurposed, and so that's a big area of success. Is if you plan your webinar properly, like in sections, you could really like repurpose it. And I don't mean just send it in an email. No, it could really be like part of your uh part of the way that the audience is used to engaging with you, because a lot of people don't want to go back to watching like a 45-minute webinar.
Yeah, they want sound bites.
They want what's relevant to them.
Yes.
And so if you can create the webinar in sections so that it's relevant for each, like different groups, right? Each section is relevant for different groups. Then what you can do is then you make it easy for the repurposing, and also for people to come back and watch the part that they want to watch. But if you just create a webinar that it's just a presentation, and then at the end it has Q&A, and then it ends there, and you just send it an email, and there's no like, hey, how can I dissect this? How can I actually figure out the part that is relevant to me as an audience member? Then it becomes very difficult to repurpose it. And so those are kind of and then the last trend that we're seeing is on LinkedIn specifically. Uh, the content that is doing very, very well is the content that it's sort of like it shows what's happening in the moment. So, for example, a lot of companies attend different events. One of the best performing videos that we've done is a person just walking through the floor and
Mhm.
getting to their booth.
Mhm.
Uh, and like it's I don't know, it's such a non-informational post,
Yeah.
but it does well.
It's the
And then
journey.
yeah, it's exactly, everybody wants to know what that company is up to.
Yeah.
And on top of that, salespeople in that organization, they're like, oh, like let me repost this, letting them know, my prospects know that we're there. And
Yeah.
so now it creates all this engagement from internal people and also consumption from their audiences. So it's really interesting. In addition to that, another trend is when you create content that is like people related, it does very, very well. For example, you could do like um employee of the month interviews, for example, like where you say, hey, tell us about yourself. How did you get into the industry? How did you get started? Tell us about your personal life a little bit, like where do you live? What are your hobbies? That type of content does very, very well too, for companies specifically.
Mhm.
So with LinkedIn, you can take the personal brand route where, let's say, an executive of the company creates a brand, and part of their brand is to talk about the problem that the company solves, right? Like the personal brand route. But then you can also create the company brand route, like the company LinkedIn page route. And so there's differences to both. But even for companies, because companies, it's really hard to grow a company following on LinkedIn, or actually it's not hard, but it's hard to perform. The content doesn't perform as well as a personal profile.
Yes.
But even then,
You're talking about the
if
business profile versus the individual's
yes,
profile. Yes, 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 yes.
correct,
Yeah, yeah.
yes,
It's
those
the
two are
same too,
different.
by the way, with Instagram as well.
Correct,
Yeah, like the owner
but
of the
only.
company performs better than the person's business profile.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And so even then, when you post content that is like from the employees, like about their hobbies and things like that, it does exceptionally well.
yeah,
And so it's just really interesting seeing all these things happen. And so I think, to your point, you have to invest a little in the top of the funnel. It's great to invest in the top of the funnel, but you can also do a lot of damage with middle of the funnel and bottom of the funnel investment with video
yeah, yeah,
if you plan it strategically, and
yeah,
especially if you can find a way to repurpose some of the top of the funnel content.
yeah. Well, I actually do want to dig into some of that, some of like the do's and don'ts. But before we do that, I do want to talk a little bit about the relevancy in terms of, the video content and build out, right? And so what from you, and because we've just broached the subject of a little bit of like the data that you've seen that have come through from some of the stuff that you see that is being developed, what has been the most fascinating piece of the data that has come out where you're like, oh, this is interesting, or data where it just solidifies in segments, this is really how the trends are moving. But I'm just such a data buff. I want to hear like, what has come out of your data that you find to be relevant for you guys as you guys move forward, and maybe potentially build other pieces to Spark Portal.
Yeah. So I'm not sure I understand the question. So you're talking about data in terms of performance from the video side
Yes,
for our
yes. Like,
clients?
yeah, so like case studies, like, what have you seen that
Okay.
has been extraordinary, like out of the data, or what has
Yeah.
just solidified, reasons as to why you've started Spark Portal?
Yeah. So it's really interesting because the way I look at Spark Portal, I don't look at it as a so right now we're in the sort of the baby phase of the growth part, meaning we found some validation, we know this works, but there's yet to be discovered. A lot yet to be discovered. We have found some success signals that are leading us to make a lot of these decisions on how we educate our customers and our clients.
Mhm.
But we talked about data, so I'll give you some examples. So we found that on average, at least our client base, we want to generate about 10 to 12 different video pieces a month. What does that mean? That means in a year, we want to reach about 100, 150 individual video assets a year.
Mhm.
We're not saying that you're going to create 100 explainer videos. No. What we mean is we say, hey, let's create a few initiatives that are rooted in current success signals that you found with content, and let's find a way to create experiments with these initiatives that allow us to know where to go next. So, for
Mhm.
example, let's say the company is running a webinar. Well, let's go with that. And if they're finding success with that, let's create an initiative where we just change a little bit about how we plan the webinar, and then we find a way to repurpose the video for social more broadly, and also in sales enablement tools. So in other words, we create short snippets, like 1 or 2 minute snippets from the webinar.
Mhm.
And if we plan it right, we should be able to pull 5 to 6 different snippets here and there. And again, some of those are going to be sent on the email newsletter. Some of those are going to be sent on LinkedIn, right? Some of those are going to be given to salespeople where they can pick from a library and just send it to their prospects. And so at the end of the month, we want to collect like how many views has these gotten, and also what's the watch through rate? Like meaning from these videos, like the percentage wise that has been watched.
Yeah. Are they watching it in full, halfway? Is it just like, 10 seconds in?
Exactly. And an important thing too is like, because that's organic, you always have to, you can get into the weeds of data. And so, but you're always going to have, you always need both. You need the data itself, but you also need the qualitative data as well. Like you need to figure out, hey, what are salespeople telling me? We've already been working on this thing for a few months. We've released, 6, 7, 8 different videos for this particular purpose. I want to hear from their own mouth, like, okay, is it good? Is it not good? Is it working? Is it not working? Do you feel supported in your role with these things or not? The data is showing us this, but what do you see from your perspective that is not in the data? And so usually what you're gonna hear is like, oh my gosh, like yes, like uh, I know that we don't get a lot of views on this video, and I haven't used them a lot, but the time that I did send it, it helped the customer kind of get to the next step. Well, that's a success signal that sometimes gets missed in the data,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And so you always have to look at both. So also with the LinkedIn stuff, if your company is struggling getting views or getting engagement, but then you released a few videos and wow, like in the past month, you posted 5 different things from the LinkedIn page, right? And it got, let's say it got, 10,000 views, or I don't know, 5,000, right? But then you posted a video, and one single video got, it got about 1,500 to 2,000 or 3,000 views, right? Wow, like that tells us something. Like that means that video is a little hotter than our regular content. So what is different here? So maybe we should try to find out what's different about video other than it's a video.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So so those are the things that the way that I look at video data is like, okay, and then there's always two things that I look at too. Is like with this video, was the reason why this video performed well because it was informational or it was entertaining? Like, what was the value here? And
Kind
also,
of like
was
the
it
hook.
timely?
Yeah. Yeah.
Was that?
Kind of like the hook, which is the value piece. Yeah.
Yeah, and different videos have different reasons why they do well. A lot of it has to do with timing.
Yeah.
So just like you see on TikTok, LinkedIn, TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and Instagram. A lot of it has to do with the timing of what's going on today in the world,
Hmm. So
right?
really connecting then with timely matters
Yeah.
in the world, like, is really what makes
Yeah.
things catapult, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
for example, if you are for example, we have a lot of clients in the fintech world.
Yeah.
Okay. Fintech is financial technology.
Mm-hmm.
PayPal, all these different, there's a huge amount of companies that just focus on financial technology.
Yeah.
And they're under the umbrella of technology or software companies, right?
Yeah.
So there's this huge event that is not it's probably one of the most famous events. It's called Money 2020.
Yeah.
Well, it happens around the same time every year. There's one event that happens here in the US and there's another one that happens in the overseas. Well, everybody knows that about this event. It's kind of like saying inbound for marketing, or saying like a huge event that everybody knows that it's happening. Well, if you can create content around that, like leading up to that event, during the event, and a little bit after, you're going to tap into that wave. And so I'm not saying that that's the only thing you should be doing, but you also have to think of in terms of being in top of mind of things that are already top of mind for your audience,
Yeah.
right? And so if you can create content that is relevant to your audience, but it's also relevant to what's going on in the industry at this point in time, then it's properly timed.
Yeah.
Meaning the algorithm is going to pick up on that and it's going to say, hey, this is relevant to these people. Because remember, specifically social media and the algorithm is trying to find how can I keep this person continue to scroll and engage in this feed in the app. So I want to show them stuff that is relevant to them.
Yes.
So you're not just creating something that's relevant to them pertaining to your industry,
Yeah.
but pertaining to everything that has to do with their person,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so usually that means what's going on in their world at this
Yes.
point in
Yes.
time.
Yes. So how about if I throw a concept at you, just because I was, working with a client now who sells fans, right?
Oh yeah.
So yeah, so they sell fans, they sell commercial fans. And they, some of the biggest things that they do are maybe like in the hydroponics. So hydroponics could also be for greenhouse growers and so on and so forth. So let's say tomorrow a big story comes out on like hydroponic growth that you need to be basically having X temperature, or like some big news comes out. If they connect their fans to this big news, is exactly what you're talking about from the
So
timely,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
relevance.
So you have two opportunities there. Number one, the opportunity of being involved in the changes, like if your audience sees that you respond to current events,
Yeah.
they're gonna see that what they're gonna see you as a thought leader or as an industry leader.
Yeah.
The other opportunity is that, let's say you have, I don't know, 100 other competitors, or 1,000, or 10 other competitors, or just one. How hard, or how likely, actually, how likely is it that they're going to continue or be able to respond as fast as you to those industry news that keep popping throughout the year? Very unlikely, because they're probably bogged down by the operations and the things that are happening. And so, those are the two kind of like opportunities that are free for grabs, up for grabs, basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say that that would be. It is difficult to take the time to do that. So I would build a system where it's very easy to produce a video. And so if you have a marketing person, for example, then I would make it a goal for them to create do a few examples first before posting them. And once you have the system down, then go out. But I would make it very low quality, meaning record like kind of like selfie mode kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's it. Like it does not have to be more complicated than that.
Yeah.
In fact, that type of content show, it's almost like behind the scenes, kind of like
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm making an announcement here in the right now, and it's just a selfie video.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've probably seen these online too, where like you can do the green screen feature on
Mm-hmm. And then you're
Instagram with
like, yep.
the yeah. It doesn't have to be as complicated as that, but you could put a little screenshot too. Like you can have the marketing person, they should probably be able to figure out
Yeah.
how to put a little box in the video with the little article, with the title of the article.
Yeah.
And so saying, hey, this article came out. The reason why this is important to you is because of XYZ. And this is what often gets missed.
Yeah.
So just FYI, I told you so.
Yeah.
There you go. A
Yeah.
30-second, 60-second video.
Yeah.
But it's very difficult for a CEO and executive to just do that because it doesn't come natural to them.
Yes.
Uh, at the same time, though, they're doing it day in and day out.
Yes.
Because the moment they go to an event, the moment they get
They're
on a phone
talking
call with
about it.
somebody,
Yeah.
they're already talking about it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, that's very, it's so true to see. Yeah, I completely agree. Like getting the executives on a camera when they know they're being filmed, that's not on stage or like at an event, it all of a sudden it's like it's stage fright for them. Like, wait, what do you want me to
it's so
say? How do you
it's
want me
so
to say it?
backwards.
Yeah. It's like you do this all the time. You're on stage, you're being interviewed by like, Fox or CNN or whatever it is, and then all of a sudden you have stage fright.
It happens. I think, yeah, I don't know, but you do get used to it though. Over time, you get
Yeah.
used to it.
Oh, for
So
sure. It comes natural to anybody once, twice, three times, and then it just you roll with it.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the way, going along the example that you gave, I think the way to properly plan for video content is you have to think of it in terms of two tracks. Imagine there's a timeline, January to December.
Yeah.
Okay. The way that we kind of think about it, and the way that we teach our clients to think about it, because even for our clients is difficult. Even when they believe so strongly on video, they hire us and we start doing a bunch of videos. Even for them, it's hard to understand like how much work it is,
Yeah.
and like it gets overwhelming for them. So we always try to find ways to educate our clients without overwhelming them. But essentially, the simplest way that we kind of help them understand the value of video and how it can work for them is we think of them in two tracks. So if you think of this January to December, think of two timelines.
Mm-hmm.
And one timeline is like just things that kind of come up, like this news article thing. Perfect. We should do something with that.
Yeah.
Like, boom.
Spur of the
Uh,
moment
y-
stuff.
yeah, stuff that is unplanned,
Mm-hmm.
but they do come up. So you kind of plan already, like, hey, like we're probably going to have a few events this year, or we're probably going to have, a few things that are going to happen in like the tariffs. Like we know something is going to happen. We should probably plan. We don't know exactly when, but we should probably in the next quarter or so, we should plan to do something about that.
Yeah.
So that's like the ad hoc track. And then below that you have the predictable stuff that you should already be creating content around, that it's going to happen. It's not going to just show up out of nowhere. And so then that way you have a good dynamic between reacting versus proactively taking action. And so and that's just a concept that you can apply to anything, right?
Yeah.
Any marketing related content, or any or otherwise. But specifically with video, because it becomes such a heavy uh, operational thing, especially
Yeah.
for marketing. Like it's editing, video editing, design, music,
Concepting,
planning,
strategizing.
concepting.
Yeah.
It's a monster. If you just focus on the reaction stuff,
Yeah.
it can easily kill the mojo. Like it just easily kill your momentum. So if you do both, then you're gonna secure more wins for you. You're gonna be motivated, and you're not gonna just rely on you having to just pull a video out of your hat
Yeah.
every week.
Yeah.
And so yeah.
No, I love that. And one thing I want to ask, like just on that note, is, because it does get overwhelming, and the editing is a long process on some things. It doesn't have to always be, especially if it's like the ones that are just selfie mode and film. You guys definitely suggest a mix of a variety of content, right? The selfie modes, the ones that aren't very
Yeah,
like edited, and then the ones that are edited. So I mean, there is a mixed bag. It's not just, no, you need to strictly just do the ones that are high end edited, correct?
correct.
Yeah.
In fact, one of our strong position is you need all you need just your video content should be focused around solving for different video styles. Okay. And so a lot of times companies, they hire like a video person, but that's kind of like you're shooting yourself in the foot if you do that. Uh, not in every case,
Yeah.
but in most cases, because what happens is that video person, they're really good at shooting video, but then they're not great at editing, for example, or they're not great at animation. And so now you have a lot of video that looks the same, and you have very little power to experiment with other video types and also figure out what actually works best for you.
Yeah.
And you can go as fast as that one person can do that one thing. So it's almost like saying, well, actually, let me explain it this way. So, in other words, what do you need to leverage video content properly? And so you need a sort of a library of skills. So you need animation skills, video editing skills, you need sound design skills. You also need design skills, and I think I already said that. Design, animation, video editing, video shooting.
Mm-hmm.
You need project management skills as well, because once you start getting to the volume that
Mm-hmm.
you need to be able to juggle
And it's the
tasks and things like that.
strategy and like figuring out like how do we
Well, that's
plan the
that's
day.
another aspect. Strategy. You need content strategy,
Yeah.
and that has to do with, and I don't want to get nerdy here, but that has to do with social media channels, distribution channels.
Yes.
Uh, you know, some companies have, and especially in the manufacturing world, like you have channel partners, like sales
Mm-hmm.
channels, like different ways of doing business. And so you need to make sure that the strategy is there. And so that's a huge component that often gets missed by most video agencies. And so, or you have to pay a premium to access that separately. And so if you hire a video person, you might get lucky,
Yeah.
and you might find the person
The
that
unicorn.
the unicorn, right? But that's, what are the chances of that happening?
Yeah.
Very rare. And so, um, yeah, so that's why we came up with Spark Portal, because we said, okay, we're going to hire all those talents
In
and
one.
offer it as a subscription. Yeah. And one of our biggest learning lessons is everything has to start with the strategy. And so, meaning when somebody submits a request for video, they should already we should already proactively have taught them about how they should think about video, and should already be a video content strategy in place, so that by the time they submit a request, it's already rooted in a strategic decision that was made already.
Mhm.
So that's basically our whole focus. And so, yeah, I think the best way to approach it is with strategy first, and that's kind of like the biggest missing piece from when somebody starts thinking about video, especially like a small business,
Yeah.
when they say, hey, when we think about video, oh, perfect, we need to hire a video person.
They always
Well,
put
you need
what is the saying? They always put the chicken before the egg.
yeah,
Yeah.
or whatever, or the other way around, but yeah.
Because it's like they think, okay, I have to hire the person to do it for me
Hmm.
without even thinking, well, what do I actually want to do? And how
Yeah.
are we going to build this out? Where are we going to use it? So on and so forth.
I think it has to do with also a little bit of strategy. So when you put together, so and this is like notoriously
Yeah.
famous
Yeah.
in the small business world, where you a lot of these businesses, they go from you know, one, two or three, five employees to like 50, 100 employees, and they're just involved in well, I'm just giving an example. What I'm trying to say is they get so focused on the growth side that they forget about the strategy, business strategy. And so then they say, well, we're going to hire somebody to run our marketing.
Yeah.
Yes. But you also need to make sure that the marketing is aligned with your business strategy. Because what happens when you outsource, when you hire somebody to do that, even though it's a good way to solve a problem in a quick way, long term, it has the opposite effect of creating more problems for you, because
Hmm.
all of a sudden you have a section of your business that is functioning without alignment
Mm,
in your business.
yes.
So the same thing happens in a small scale with video. A lot of like marketing says, hey, we need to hire video, but then and you do, and they start doing well, but then they get too far out where they start functioning but not aligned with marketing strategy.
Yes. Yes.
And so what happens is you have great video that looks amazing, but it doesn't perform well,
Yeah.
or is not or is not really working for the goals of the business,
Yes. Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so yeah, it all goes back to that whole mentality, or that whole concept of, hey, whether you make one video or 10,000 videos, is this really working? Is it really accomplishing? Are you growing because of it?
Yeah.
And so
It's almost
yeah.
like getting organized so that you don't have to backtrack, because a lot of companies are backtracking
Hmm.
because
A lot of companies are getting burnt. Yeah.
yeah, because they're thinking about the end goal versus how to actually get there and the process of getting there, right?
Hmm.
So and the missing link really is the strategy part. I mean, it's like, why are we
Yeah.
doing this? Why is the big question.
Yeah, something along the lines too. Going along with what you said,
Yeah.
it makes you wonder, why is there this lack of strategy skills in leadership, right? And I think that has to do with part of the reason is things have changed so fast in the past 10 years that everybody has just like everyone's just trying to catch up.
Yeah.
And sometimes you forget that, hey, the reason why you started a business and why that business did so well was because you had a strategic like an idea that was really different, and you set up your business in a different way.
Yeah.
And along the way, you started you stopped thinking about strategically. You stopped thinking strategically and you went tactical. And that's good. We have to do that sometimes. But you forgot to switch back.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of that is happening today. With COVID and this and now AI, like everybody's just trying to catch up, but we're forgetting that we need to be strategic. Like we need to start thinking long term, like 3, 5, 4, 6, 7, 10 years from now. How are we setting ourselves up today for 5, 10 years from now, not just next quarter or next year?
Yeah.
And so if we change our frame of thinking and we kind of like go higher up, we can start to make those decisions so that then we can go down and better inform our tactical decisions.
Yes, I
And
agree.
video is one of those things,
Yeah.
like where video could be a huge differentiator for your marketing and your business.
Oh, yeah.
We, but because you look at it in a tactical way, you're missing the point. You're
Yeah.
missing it.
You're not
You're getting
embedding it
burned.
with you're not embedding it with like the outreach of like everything that you are doing for it to like then,
Exactly.
as you're mentioning, like align with everything else.
And in marketing, the word alignment, strategy,
Yeah.
it's way overused. So a lot of people are going to miss this, the thing that you and I are talking about today. But the person that understands it, like they can see it, like, wow, yeah, there's a lack of that in today's world.
Yeah.
They're going to see it as an opportunity and say, wow, like if I just focus 15% of my time in strategy, I can be way ahead of my competition in 3 to 5 years from now.
Yeah.
And the same is true with video as well.
Yeah.
Like you don't even have to think that far. With
Yeah.
video, you're thinking in terms of quarters and years. So
Yeah. No, I completely agree. Strategy is the missing link, and people need to be thinking about like why they're doing what they're doing and how they're connecting with their audience versus saying, okay, we're going to connect to our audience this way. um, so don't
yeah,
build the plan before you understand why you're building the plan, because
yeah,
the plan is easy, it's there, the tools and the tactics and the channels are all similar, but how are you going to connect those tools, tactics, and channels to your company and your company's audience, and what is that missing link, which is their pain points, and then
yeah,
that's when you start creating content
yeah.
and all that.
And why? And then you start thinking into why, right? So
Hmm.
how and why?
Yeah.
Like our competitors so and so, they're doing so well on YouTube.
Yeah.
Should we invest in YouTube? We're going to invest in YouTube because like, wait a minute, like why?
Yeah.
Like, let's look at where our audience is before we look at our competitors,
Yeah.
because what makes us unique is probably something different.
Yeah.
And we might not have to compete on YouTube. We might just be able to compete on LinkedIn
Yeah.
because they're not doing well on LinkedIn. So maybe, and because we have 3 executives willing to jump on and record videos, like maybe we should probably focus on that.
Yeah.
So let's think about this. So now the frame of thinking is different rather
Yes.
than like, what is our competitor doing and how can we do it better than them?
Yeah.
No, how can we actually focus on our goals rather than just comparing yourself so much with the competitor? I think comparing yourself to a competitor is important, but it should be part of the strategy process, but only a percentage of it, not the whole thing,
Yeah.
right?
No, I
And
completely
so
agree.
I feel like executives today, they put too much emphasis on that. And at the end of the day, what you're trying to do with the company or the business is you're trying to create value in the market. And if you focus too much on tapping into the current market, you forget to build more market,
Yes. Yeah.
create new ones.
Yeah.
And so then like, well, and so then you're, so if you just, so in other words, if there's a pizza and you're trying to get a piece of the pizza, sure, but shouldn't you also try to like bake another pizza so that you
Yeah.
can have 2 pizzas and compete for 2 pizzas?
Yeah.
And so I think there's a lot of that what's happening today. It's like it's easier because of the digital world that we live in. It's so easy to say, hey, there's this audience, we're going to tap into it.
Yeah.
Well, how about you go after something new that nobody has thought of
Perfect.
before?
Yeah. Exactly.
Like that's also exciting, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
we could be a true market, like we can create something new that hasn't been created before.
Yes. Yes. I completely agree. And I like that because that like also bleeds into, don't just focus on like what your industry is doing. Also look outside of your industry, because you may find a video that was done by, you're a company that sells fans, but you may find a video that they sell soft drinks, and they did like a cool, I don't know, like inception, or there was a cool ideation through that you could learn from, that could also work for your audience, and you could be winning there because everybody else in your industry is doing the same thing, but then you're not. So then that's, to your point, tapping into something new and having those 2 pizzas versus one.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ta
Yeah.
Thinking that is how you should think outside the box, right?
Yeah.
Like, how are you not just competing, but approaching it differently and uniquely.
Yeah, totally. Now, I know that we've talked a lot about, in essence, throughout the whole conversation, it's kind of like the do's and don'ts of like what you want to be doing for video and what you don't want to be doing for video. But can we just kind of like narrow it down and solidify that in terms of, what companies, so it's like, strategy comes first, like to kind of like narrow that down in a cohesive manner for the audience, if you will.
I see. So I think it's helpful to think, uh, what is the goal
Yes.
that you're trying to solve for? If the executive team or the business owner says, hey, we need to leverage video to improve our marketing. Okay, let's be a little bit more specific. What would you like to see? Well, we would like to, I don't know, just create more retention, or, whatever the goal may be. Figure that out. And you don't have to have it like completely identified, but you should have a few ideas of what you're shooting for. And so it's helpful to think too in scenarios. So, but I guess to answer your question, how they should be thinking about it is, you should think about it in terms of what you're actually capable of as well. Because you don't want to say, we're going to do XYZ, and then it turns out you cannot do that.
Yeah.
Or you cannot do it often enough. So you need to take a self-assessment test of, or not a test, but like look inside internally and say, do we have the resources that we need? Can somebody of our team maybe create videos? What type of videos can they create? And then say, okay, because that's what they can do, then we should probably do these type of videos. Going back to the example of the selfie, if the person in your team cannot do that, then probably shouldn't do that. Maybe you should do more like 10-second videos of like leveraging
Interview
memes, for
style.
example,
Yeah.
or interviews, or
Yeah.
whatever. Or maybe you should, if your executive is good at writing, then send them an interview in writing. And there's many AI tools you can go with the AI route. It might not perform as well, but it's better than doing no video, right? And if your goal was to improve the amount of engagement and touch points that you have with your customers, then you reached your goal, right? In other words, you don't have to have video doesn't have to be your golden ticket to make your marketing win awards.
Yeah.
But it has to be rooted in a purpose and a goal. So it's really hard to give a playbook advice when I don't have a company in front of me. So I think what would be helpful for me is if you can give me a scenario,
Yeah.
and I could give you what I would do for them.
Yeah. So let's go back to the fans then, right? I mean, it's like
Okay.
they're trying to reach, they haven't tapped into video.
Okay.
They're
At all?
at all. They're trying
Okay.
to reach an audience through video. How would you suggest that they slice and dice? And what would be
Okay.
the strategy if they want to attract hydroponics commercial industries to really, sell these
What are
video?
hydroponics?
Hydroponics is like, think about any kind of like greenhouse grown vegetables or any of that kind
Oh,
of
okay.
stuff. Yeah.
Where are those located? In the
They could be
US?
located, yeah, the United States. That's a
Okay.
good question. Yeah.
And where are they spending their time? Do they have an event every year?
The sometimes they do go to events.
Are they farmers? Are they considered farmers?
The hydroponics.
Yeah.
I would say so. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say so because I mean it's like it's just greenhouse grown, versus like so it's
Okay.
inside a greenhouse versus actually growing your vegetables in soil. It's still in soil, it's
I
just
see.
in a
In-house,
concentrated
in a greenhouse.
environment. Yeah. Yeah. So, or let's think about, industrial companies where, manufacturing companies that may need like industrial fans and like the offices and that kind of stuff.
Okay.
So,
So those are two different audiences.
yeah.
Now, in terms of how are their marketing team set up?
So they're just really dipping into, they did a lot of like just sales. So marketing hasn't really like been a part of like their environment other than
But
just strict sell, like to go to
do they
events.
have a head of marketing or a marketing specialist or no marketing people?
No,
Just an agency.
just an agency.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then salespeople, how many salespeople do they have
Probably
roughly?
like three.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are they doing outreach, or are they doing like uh
Outreach.
inbound and
Both outreach and then
in
inbound and
person as
then
well?
at events for the most part when it comes to in
Okay.
person. Yes.
But
Yeah.
they don't go to like meet them in person or anything like that.
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would heavily rely on sales,
Yeah.
supporting sales first.
Yeah.
And my go-to is first you need an explainer video, how the value proposition video.
Yeah.
Here's the industry problem, and here is the solution. And the solution does not include the product or the company. And by the way, here's the vehicle. Here,
Yeah.
the solution that we were talking about, we actually do that.
Yes.
So an explainer video with those three components. And that video should be 60 seconds.
Yeah.
It does not have to go into detail. It should just speak to the problem, the problem, the problem, the problem.
Mhm. Mhm.
So that's the go-to, the thing that the B2B world does not do enough. So that's the go-to place. That's project number one.
Yeah.
And again, if you have an animator, if you could have the budget to hire an animator person to do that, great. If you don't, then go ahead and write it yourself and shoot it with an iPhone. Whatever way you can, shoot that video, because the value in that video is not the production, uh, the high quality of it.
Yeah.
Is it's teaching the audience that there's a huge problem that they have and the solution that they should consider.
Yeah.
And oh, by the way, company XYZ solves that problem,
Yes.
and that's us,
Yes.
right? So that video is the number one that I would go for this company. In addition to that, I would also create some more like supportive type of videos. So for example, like have a marketing agency come up with 10 questions
Mhm.
of like that come up, like talk to sales first and say, hey, what are the top questions that come up all the time? What do you struggle explaining? And then have like jump on Zoom or Riverside or even go visit them and shoot it in an iPhone. Record the executives or the owner answering those questions,
Yeah.
or the salespeople. And now you have 10 individual videos. Again, low production value. It's okay if it's low production value, as long as the meat and potatoes, as long as the person speaking is either educating, it's educating them about this issue.
Yeah.
And then now you went from one video to 12 videos or whatever, or 11. And those videos can easily be posted several ways on YouTube. They could be posted on also on a newsletter included. If you have a monthly newsletter,
Yeah.
you have one video that you can literally include in every newsletter that goes out every month.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you can also leverage it on, you give it to your salespeople and say, hey, we recorded those questions that you told us that you often come up. Make sure that you include these links to these videos when you send an email to your prospect, or as a follow-up to those conversations, as a follow-up email in those conversations that you have.
Yeah.
And so right there, I just gave you ideas for,
I love it.
12 videos.
I love it.
Like
That's
and
fantastic.
again, if marketing, if 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 that's too much, you could
Yeah.
do it in a year.
Yeah.
If last year you did 3 videos,
Yeah.
this year you just did 12 videos. There you go, right?
No, but I love that we did this exercise because it also goes to show you that we kind of developed the mini brief together. Like you were asking me questions, I was responding. So guys, that's a mini brief. That's the strategy that you guys need
There
to
you
be
go.
thinking about. And then you
Yeah.
build out like, okay, number one, two, three, all the things that you need to be doing. And then as Daniel was saying, these are the places that you could like break it up and put it into place and stuff.
Yeah.
I love
So I
that.
didn't go too heavy on strategy,
Yeah.
but
A high
the
level.
high level, right? But what we talked about was mostly uh sort of like the marketing strategy.
Yes.
There's also the production strategy,
Aspect. Yeah.
which it's a huge gap. It's a huge problem because leaders don't know, business leaders don't know that. And also marketing leaders oftentimes don't know that because they know that like, oh, in order to produce a video, I like, in other words, I didn't, as a marketer, oftentimes I say like, oh my gosh, like before we were paying $15,000 for a video. And like, yeah, well, you pay $15,000 because you were asking for an explainer video.
Yeah.
But if you knew production strategy or production, then you would have considered option A, B, and C, and their pros and cons. And so pros for and so you just went with the highest, most expensive option. But if you would have gone with the less expensive option, you would have produced it faster.
Yeah.
You would have given up a little bit of the bells and whistles, but in a sales environment, it wouldn't have mattered. As far as impact for this particular video, it wouldn't have mattered.
Absolutely.
And oftentimes that doesn't come up because when you go hire for an agency, a video agency, they're selling you on production value because they know that you don't do as many videos as, like, you only do 2 or 3 videos a year. So they're not going to sell you on number of videos, or they're not going to lower their production value.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's my long-winded answer of, you should also consider the production strategy as well.
Yes.
So that you don't get involved in projects that look amazing, but you didn't have to invest,
Yeah.
that much effort and money into production, something that it doesn't need that much quality,
Yeah. No, I
because
love
nobody's
that.
going to notice. And I'm not saying it should be crappy quality. No, anything above 80% quality, nobody's going to notice.
Yeah.
So why should you pay 15,000 when you could have paid 5,000? And also, you should have why spend 6 weeks when you could have spent 2 weeks putting this thing together?
Yeah. No,
So yeah.
that's fantastic. I love it. Wow, this has been really informative, and I think we we
Thank you.
we really dug into like the juice of, really the baseline of like what people need to be thinking of when it comes to like B2B. Guys, we've listed everything below as it relates to Daniel's company, Spark Portal. Definitely check it out. If you guys are struggling to create videos, I mean, this is the place to go. I mean, it's cost effective, it's efficient. You guys get hand holding, as you've heard Daniel basically talk about how he supports his clients. So this is needed. Video is not going to go away, and AI is definitely not supporting it the way it needs to be supported. So definitely check it out. And Daniel, any last words for any of the entrepreneurs or marketers listening today?
I would say continue to focus on strategy like we talked about today. Make sure that your marketing is rooted in your business strategy.
Yeah.
And the more you do that, the more you're going to spend time making good tactical decisions.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I wish you good luck. We're all in the same boat. We're all small
Yeah,
businesses. So
we
yeah.
are. Thank you so much, Daniel. This has been wonderful.
Thank you.